Hello everybody and welcome back. And the Torrentius is here. And I'm using this map here. It is just an enlarged, colorized version of the DM map. I have added the village of Tanoa, which was surprisingly missing from the main map, even though it is the main village. Of course it gets its number references because it features heavily in the actual module. Right, and if you remember from last time, the Torrentius was here. We had been blown by strong winds all the way from up here, alongside this cliffside coast, in high winds and a massive swelling sea with beating rain. And as you can imagine, for those who are not used to the sea, this was quite a frightening part of the journey, just as it was meant to be a celebration that they had finally reached the island. Okay. So they're going to wake up on day 22. 3 weeks it's taken them to get here. So much for the 1 week that Rory Barbosa said it took him to get here. Maybe he was drunk and filled with rum. So on the morning of the 22nd, has the rain and the wind abated any? Good, that is back to normal winds. So we are traveling at 72 miles per day, which is 12 of these hexes. And if you remember, the party have had a chance to look over this map and the letter for about, well, 3 weeks. This south-facing bay is by far the safest place to moor, and by coincidence, or maybe the islanders realised this themselves, their most important settlement is in this bay. So we've got 12 hexes to go. Let us see what the weather is like. Right, that's 9, that's reasonably good. Yeah, so it looks like the stormy rain clouds have definitely cleared up a bit. And indeed, by the time they get to the middle of the day, the sky has cleared. Now that will, in the future, have its own consequences, but I shall leave that one for a later date. So 12 hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12. Okay, that's the end of day 23. And we did not encounter anything. On the morning of day 24, where do the party end up? Oh good, that is a strong wind, which gives us an extra third, so instead of 12, we can move 16, and that is more than enough to bring us into the bay. Okay, and I will do for the middle of the day, I will see if this bay is as safe as the captain hoped. Yes, there are no wandering monsters. And if we look here, these hexes are empty. This is a small bit of lowland and beach, which looks like fertile ground. And sure enough, we can see the smoke from some village fires in the distance. There is no dock or berth. The ship has to moor about 200 yards off the coast, and then, using a rowing boat, start to transport the sailors onto the beach. This ship was visible from at least 3 hexes away. So that is about 4 hours worth of travel. And that has given more than enough time for the Tanoans to get their act together and to come down onto the beach and form a welcoming party. We have no idea what this welcoming party will be like, but again, the letter from Rory Barbosa gives us hope that it will be at least some kind of warm welcome. It says here, some of the villagers were friendly, but others were hostile, and the natives attacked on sight. I suspect the hostile villages are filled with cannibals. Okay, that might be a bit prejudiced, because he never landed there, and he clearly doesn't know. It is just a suspicion. Okay. Going over the letter and trying to read between the lines, the fact that he birthed here, and he described some of the villagers as friendly, the odds are this is one of them. Okay, so who is going to go into the first rowing boat? Well, it is the duty of the captain too, and also the party, and also Kane, who is the man-at-arms, and Barton, the ship's doctor, who is one of the few armoured people on the ship. That will be the welcoming party, because even though we think the villagers are friendly, we understand they might not realise that we are. And we're going to load up some of the gifts that we brought, some of the furs, some of the ceramics and the carpets, and make these as an offering, and hopefully, well, how on earth are we going to communicate? As the rowing boat nears the shore, Sylvia, who's got the sharpest eyes, can see in more detail the line of people looking to greet them. Well, something she has picked up from human culture is that the richest and most important people also tend to be the best fed, and noticeably so. She thinks this is odd, as in elven culture, the nobility, the kings and the lords and ladies all pride themselves in being the most tall and slender of their people. And there seems to be 4 people on the shore that look more important than others. But there is a rather large woman wearing a large headdress of brightly coloured feathers, and standing beside her are 2 men, both of whom are again dressed in brightly coloured clothing. And eventually the rowing boat containing everybody makes it to the shore. There are a lot of the locals here carrying spears, but they are much greater in number than we are. And they don't seem to be moving forward in hostility. They certainly haven't thrown their spears at us when we were within striking distance. There's nothing else to do but to beach the rowing boat and to get off. And all together in the boat are the party, Kane and Barton, the 2 brothers, the ship's captain, and 4 sailors who were doing the rowing. The chief woman puts her hand up, which the party mistake as a sign of peace. It's really a sign for her soldiers to stand down, and they lower their spears. She kind of starts craning her neck to look into the boat to see if there's anything there. She sends forward somebody who seems to be a captain of the guard maybe, to walk towards the boat, look into it and report back to her, and she seems satisfied. Yes, we have brought gifts. One of the men standing either side of her has a necklace of skulls. They seem to be monkey skulls, or else they could be the shrunken skulls of humans. He steps forward, makes some sort of gesture of greeting, and says welcome. He also says, "We speak your tongue, but please forgive us if we do not speak it well." Captain Trelawney replies with, "Greetings. It is a pleasure to meet such hospitable people. I hope we can find hospitality here in return for some gifts." This person translates that to the matriarch. She seems more than pleased. We are told, "Welcome to our village, and everything we have is at your disposal." Malin says, "Well, they seem really friendly," and Liz says, bit too friendly. Right, so the party follow the tribe's people to their village. And this is what the village of Tanoa looks like. I'm going to guess that we come in from here, and let me describe what we see. Right, there's a 3-foot mound of earth, which is like a low hill. The scale of this map is 1 square is 50 feet, so this hill is 250 feet. On top of it is a small flat top pyramid, and on top of the pyramid is a very large but rather crude sculpture of what looks to be like a sea turtle. This is a perimeter road, and each of these circles is a gathering of tribal huts. They all face inward to a graveyard, and in between them are the gardens to grow the crops. And one of the party members, I'll just roll a dice to see who says this. Who gets the highest? Well, it's Donard and Sylvia make a comment towards each other and notice that the number of people attending the crops is remarkably few. Right, now what is not marked on this map is which of these settlements belongs to the clan matriarch. So I will pick one, and I will pick this here. This is her home. And I am going to make some differences between the module and my version. In the module version, there are 4 animals, each which represent a different tribe or faction, and each of these factions lives in a different part of the settlement. So here we have the Hawk clan, the Tiger clan, the Sea Turtle, and the Elk. I have changed this up. I have made each settlement its own tribe, and it has its own animal spirit that it follows. So this is the Sea Turtle people. And if I go back to the main map, each of these will represent a different animal. And we will learn about how these people react to each other and what has been going on. But we are taken to the matriarch's hut, and as we walk, turns out the most senior of the indigenous people, including the matriarch, can't speak common tongue. And it's Malin who's walking alongside the matriarch's husband, who happens to be the chief priest, and he blurts out, "How do you come to know our language?" And the priest replies, "Well, you aren't the first person to visit us, and we have spent much time in the company of you people. We hear you come from a continent which is so vast, it makes our land look but like a grain of wheat in comparison." Malin just says, yeah, that's probably quite true. I have travelled far and wide and seen a great many things. And the priest laughs and says, "Well, I hope you will stay with us and tell us of your travels and of distant lands and different peoples and different creatures." As the sun goes past noonday and starts to head towards the west, we can see that these people are preparing quite a feast, because all the other senior people from the rest of these little settlements start to appear slowly. There's an exchange of gifts. We give these people the furs and some of the tapestries and some of the ceramics. We do say there is more, which we are keeping for other people. That does not go down well, so Captain Trelawney says, "Or we can offer them to you in exchange for some of your treasures," and that somewhat mollifies the matriarch. We learn their names. The matriarch is called Mahina. Her husband is the main priest. He's called Anaru. And the man with the skulls around his neck is called Koki, but he does not tell us what his role is in this settlement. Carrick is having a hard time at the feast. In fact, it began even as the party were walking towards the village, because they have never seen a dwarf before. It's pretty obvious he's attracting attention, and people are commenting on his short stature and his wide, stocky build and his rather luxurious beard, where everybody here is clean shaven. When the feast starts and Sylvia takes off her helmet, they sort of gasp at her pointed ears. And again, people walk up and rather intrusively touch her hair to get a better glimpse of her ears, and they talk to each other in their own language. It's obvious she's distressed. So Mahina, the matriarch, barks out some kind of command, and people humbly sit back down again and apologise profusely. And again, Koki, the man with the skulls around his neck, also says in common, "Many apologies. We don't often see your kind here before." That turns the conversation around to other humans, especially with their background story of how they acquired the common tongue. And we know in one of the nearby islands there was what we would call a penal colony of Iron Ring members and other criminals that were sent out to, well, either survive or die. So we ask, is there a tribe of humans in another island nearby? And of course they reply, yes, there is. And were these the people who helped you learn common tongue? And yes, they mostly are. And what about, are these people friendly, or were they aggressive towards you? And much to our surprise, we're told that these other humans are very friendly, and they have learnt the ways of the Tanoans, and they trade together. Okay, now that does not describe the Iron Ring that we know, nor does it describe a bunch of hardened criminals that were sent into exile. So either these ex-prisoners have completely converted their ways, or else we're not being told the truth, but something is not quite adding up. After dinner, Sylvia and Carrick, who are feeling kind of awkward because the locals still are looking at them and whispering to each other, despite the fact they were told to be more polite, so they go for a walk around the village to stretch their legs and to settle their stomachs. And in the moonlight, which is not great, they can see some figures working the gardens. It seems logical that in such a hot place, perhaps a lot of the hard manual labour is done in the evening when the sun has set and it's a lot cooler. But Carrick elbows Sylvia and says, "I don't know if you can see what I can see." And Sylvia says, "What is it?" "Have a look again at these people farming the land." And she looks at the very dark silhouettes of these shambling shapes moving around the fields with their gardening tools and farming equipment. At first she doesn't get it. Carrick asks her again, "Your dark vision, what's it showing you?" and it takes Sylvia a moment to realise that these people are not warm-bodied. They don't glow with the red of her infravision. I'll make an intelligence roll for each of them. Sylvia has an 11 or more to get, Carrick has just a 7 or more, and if either of them make their intelligence roll, they will come to a conclusion. Sylvia is the green dice. And it is actually... Sorry, you need to roll under your intelligence score, and it is Carrick who, despite his intelligence of 7, suddenly says to Sylvia, "These people are not living, these are zombies. And I wonder if our friend with the skull necklace is their master." Okay, now that is something to report back to the party, but then it's Sylvia who elbows Carrick, and they're about here. And she says, "Shh, look," and she points into the jungle, and there, sure enough, in infravision, just close to them, maybe about 40 yards away. Right, now correct me in the comments, but does the range of infravision also treble for outdoors? It's normally 60 feet. Does that become 60 yards when you're outdoors? Do tell me in the comments. But just within the range of the infravision, they see a human-sized and human-shaped figure, and it seems to be watching them from the trees. And it's only one of them, and Carrick says, "Shall we investigate?" And without waiting, he takes a step forward into the bushes, but the figure runs away again. Right, so there's a lot to say. The question the party have to ask themselves is, are they going to stay in the village at night? Are they going to go and row back to the ship? Or will they stay on the beach? And I think the conclusion they're going to come to is that it would be better to spend the first night back on board the ship. So they're going to have to say their goodbyes, and they're going to have to make an excuse. And I think the obvious excuse is they have more treasures to trade with on the ship. We will leave the party at the end of this tonight as they row their way back to the Terentius with a lot to talk about. Right, everybody has piled into the rowing boat on their way back to the Terentius. Malin is moaning and grumbling because he wonders why on earth we left so early and didn't ask 101 questions that needed to be asked, such as, did you see that mighty wall that was made of stone? Who made that? We didn't ask them that. And what about the iron ring? We didn't ask about that either. And it's Captain Trelawney who says, "Sonny, you haven't travelled that much. Our job was to be hospitable and to make friends. It wasn't to interrogate them. We're going to be here for weeks. We've got plenty of time to ask them those questions. It's up to them to ask about us. Remember, we're the strangers here." So a bit sort of grumbling at the etiquette and the diplomacy, Malin, he realises this is something that is new to him. He would have said something more, but it's Sylvia who points to the shore and says, "Look, along the shore is a line of some local people. They're dressed slightly differently from the Tanoans, well, as far as we can see, given the distance and the darkness. But the thing is, a lot of them are standing in a line with sticks held aloft, and on the sticks seems to be some sort of what you might call a cross between a sculpture and a puppet. And it seems to be made out of twigs and animal skins, and it looks like a giant sea creature. It's got a fat body and a very long thin neck, and as they hold it aloft, they move their sticks up and down, so this puppet moves like a wave, and we can hear them begin to chant. Now we wonder what all of that is about, and it's one of the rowers who points to the water beside us, because there, just off the side of the ship, we see a body of some sort of creature rise and fall and break through the surface of the waves. Right, the sailor cries out, and that's enough to get everybody to get their weapons ready. We hear the chanting on the shore increase, and we see the movement of this long puppet, its waveform, agitate more, and then rising up beside the boat to a length of about 20 feet high with a fearsome mouth is a sea monster. This is a Plesiosaur. Right, and it is indeed enough for everyone to cry out. Who gets initiative? It's mutual. Right, missiles first. Liz is going to try and shoot. Even though she gets a short range bonus, I will not give it to her because of the movement of the ship. And she hits a C1, that's good enough, and does 5 damage. spells. Right, we're going to cast a new spell. In sheer panic, Malin is going to cast Lightning Bolt. Remember, he was told you don't have Fireball on a ship. Right, Lightning Bolt. This spell creates a bolt of lightning starting up to 180 feet away from the caster and extending 60 feet further away. All creatures within the area of effect take 1d6 points of damage per level of the caster with the saving throw, and it can bounce back again. Make this a good lightning bolt because this creature is a 16 hit dice creature. Ah yes, oh well, okay. Count myself. That is quite good. 18, 20, 25 points of damage. Right, it can make a saving throw, and its save versus spells is an 8, so it needs to throw 8 or more. Okay. It takes 12 points of damage. It is down to 64. Right, we have other spellcasters. Sylvia is going to cast light into this creature's eyes in order to blind it. And it fails its saving throw. Excellent. This creature is blinded. What does that mean? It means its THAC0 goes from 7 up to 11. It also means that its armor class drops by 4, or in effect, the party's THAC0 goes up by 4. Other spells, Donard is going to cast Striking on Carrick. That gives him an extra d6 dice. Barton was going to cast Continual Light into the Plesiosaur's eyes. That's now moot, but he will cast it anyway, and we'll see if it's saved. Right, melee. I will do its attack first, because it was about to attack the ship as it got blinded, so it probably will hit somebody. Right, there are 12 people on the rowing boat. There's 5 party members. There is the captain, Trelawney. There is Kane. There's Barton. And there are 4 crew members. I have numbered them 1 to 12. So who does it choose? And the crew members are the numbers 9 to 12. 1, that's Liz. Right. It does 46 points of damage. It has a THAC0 of 11 and she has an AC of 5. No, her AC went to 3 because she has the Ring of Protection plus 2. This has a THAC0 of 11. Right. Oh, let's just roll all of the dice together. A 9, it hits AC 2, and it does 12 points of damage. Right, Liz is down to 13. Okay, we have a lot of melee here. Let's do Carrick. Who thankfully gets that 4 bonus. Oh, that's miserable. He does 8 damage. It's down to 56. And let's do Kane, who does 2d6 plus 4. He hits, and he does excellent. That's 11 plus 4 is 15. It's down to 41. Right, and our captain is a level 4 fighter, and he has just 1d8 plus 1. And he misses. Round number 2. We get initiative. Right. Missiles again. Liz. Plus 4 onto that is 9. She hits AC 4. It has AC 6. She hits. It's only 3 points of damage. It's down to 38. Malin, shocked at his sister getting hit, is going to cast magic missiles. 1d6 plus 1 times 3. Excellent. 13 plus 3 is 16. It's down to 22. Sylvia is going to try her own magic missile. Ah, nice one, that's 7. It's down to 15. Donard is going to cast Cure Light Wounds on Liz. That's good, that's 6 points. She's up to 19. Barton is going to do the same. That's another 6 points. She's back up to full health. 25. Right, Carrick. Ah yes, good hit. That's 6 plus 1 is 7 plus 4 is 11. It's got 4 HP left. And it's up to Kane to swing his two-handed sword and get this thing. Right, 4 onto that is a 9. Thaco is 12, he hits AC 3, and 2d6 plus 4, that is 12 points. Yep, he slices the head of this Plesiosaur. Whoa, right, that had 76 hit points and did 46 damage. Okay. Obviously, we're panicking. The sailors are rowing away like nobody's business. A whale, not a sea mammal, but a cry of despair goes up from the shore. These locals scurry away. We didn't notice this before, but on the beach they had their own boats. They're rather long, narrow canoes, stabilized with outriggers, and they pile into them and they row southward. Okay, somebody else is aware of our presence on this island, and unlike the Tanoans, these people are not friendly. Right, there's a lot to think about when the party get back on board the ship. What have they got to think about? They have to think about the fact that the Tanoans seem to be friendly with people we considered to be the Iron Ring. That doesn't add up. There are zombies who are doing their gardening. Where did they get the zombies from? There was that strange person or monkey type person maybe who was seen with infravision in the jungle. And now we have another tribe who was able to conjure up a sea monster. Okay, well, let's see how tomorrow goes and whether or not the party want to go back to the island. Right, I'll see you then.